Good afternoon YouTube, and today you join us at Engine Dynamics in Colchester, where we'll be seeing what the 172 Cup will be delivering. Now Andy has got us on the hub dyno today, so we'll be getting a true figure of what the vehicle makes at the hub and obviously a calculated figure. So stay tuned and I hope you enjoy. Good morning YouTube, and welcome back to Project Clio 172 Cup. So as you've probably seen from the title, we finally got the car over to be mapped. Now I'm super thrilled with the outcome, and hopefully, like I say, you guys enjoy today's video. So if you're new to the channel, my name's James Stone, and like I say, this is my 172 Cup. Now I've had this car, it's got to be knocking on 5 years now, and bought it originally as a little bit of fun, but if you want to see the whole build progress now, like I say, it certainly had some time and money put into it, but I'm very happy with the finished piece. And like I say, in today's video, the mapping was just finishing everything off. But like always, I discovered that there's more things I want to do, more things I'm going to need to do. So obviously the journey will continue. But if you haven't done so already, make sure you check out the playlist, like I say, which has got all the videos from the beginning. So for those that watched the previous video when we took the car to Surrey Rolling Road, the fueling was all over the place. It wasn't quite delivering the numbers, but the car had not been tailored to the group end timing calibration that had been done on the camshaft inlet. So we needed to get it all mapped. Now, there are a lot of people in the UK that can map cars. There are a lot of people that say they're specialists, but unfortunately there's very few that actually have full control over the Renault standard ECU. Now, for those that followed the channel and know much about the inlet manifold, you'll know that it works with the factory settings. So it uses the standard manifold pressure sensor, it uses the standard air inlet temperature, it uses the standard throttle body. So the idea is that you still get all your creature comforts, all your cold start driving. If you've got a car with cruise control, you get to keep all that. So I needed to go and see someone that could work purely with the factory ECU 100%. So it couldn't be someone that's, yeah, I've had a go doing bits and bobs, because I wanted to get everything dialed in correctly. And the only person that kept coming back time and time again was Engine Dynamics. So I've heard or known of Engine Dynamics, it's got to be knocking on 7 or 8 years now. When I was doing the Renault Sport stuff, we were very much focused on the naturally aspirated packages, whereas Engine Dynamics were pushing boundaries with turbo in them. And like I say, if you've seen any of their builds, some pretty crazy stuff. So it's certainly worth checking out the website or their Instagram page. And after speaking to Andy through a few messages, it just became so clear that with his understanding of these cars, he was going to be the man to see, even if he was nearly 100 miles away. But like I say, in this video, pleased to report it was well worth the journey. One of the really nice things that I enjoyed being with Engine Dynamics yesterday is it's clear to see from the way that they run the business and the cars they have there that they still have a big love for the Renault Sport scene. It's all too easy to get caught up in the money side of it and approach it as strictly as a business, which obviously is the correct way to do things. But like I say, being there yesterday, Andy and Andrew, his dad, have such a passion for it, and you can see that when you walk around the workshop. And I'll overlay some of the cars they've built, and his dad had a phase 1 exclusive that was running 240 horsepower. I mean, in something like this, that is a lot of power, and it was just pristine, and you could tell it was his pride and joy, and he'd looked after it. And even just taking it outside to let me image it, as soon as it was back inside, dried it over, and like I say, really nice to see. It's not just, yeah, next one in, next one out. It's a real passion that the guys have got there. And they're also working on the 197 turbo kit. Now obviously the car was in the development stage when I was down there, but man, that is what that car needs, just a little bit more oomph to cover that weight. So fingers crossed when the boys get it done, and if we get some sunshine, they'll invite me back to have a go out in that, because it looks like it's going to be brilliant fun for the future. So yeah, just honestly buzzing. Like, had such a good day with them. We went yesterday, and by the time I got back from the drive, I was like, putting the GoPros away. I'll film this the following day once I've not endured 100 miles of rattly Clio. But yeah, just if you guys have got any Renault Sport work that you need doing, especially mapping, definitely give Engine Dynamics a shout. Something I will discuss in this video, because obviously not all the viewers for the channel are UK or European based. A lot of, I say, the viewers I've discovered are from America and Australia, so hi to you guys as well, and thanks for watching. But in the UK, we work by what we call flywheel power, and realistically, wheel horsepower is the more accurate version because there's no calculation or guesstimation. But as I say, in the UK, we generally work off the flywheel power, which obviously the car's in the engine, so you can't do that. You have to make a calculation from the wheels. So there are three types. We've obviously got the wheel horsepower output, which you get on like a lot of rolling roads, especially guys in the States. We then have the hub dynos, like what we've used here with Engine Dynamics, which is where the wheels come off the car, the hubs are bolted up, and the beauty of that is you're going to get no wheel spin. You're not going to have any changes. Like Andy explained to me, if you put different tyres on a car, if you're running different camber, they can all play big factors into the power output figure. So it's nice that it's just direct to the hubs. And then obviously you've got a crank dyno. Now a crank dyno is generally done when the engine is out of the car, it's rigged up, it's got its own cooling system, fueling system, and it can just have the power measured straight off the crank. The problem we have with doing that in the UK is it's a big job to remove an engine. So the power comes from the wheels, and then a percentage is made to give the flywheel figure for the car. So in this video, like I say, it is a hub dyno. I will give you guys at the end the wheel figure, and also the wheel figure, the hub figure, and the calculated flywheel figure. So as I mentioned, Engine Dynamics were about 95 miles away from me, and it was an early morning slot that Andy had squeezed me into, so I was like, right, we need to be up on time. If you live in the UK, you know what the motorway can be like. You expect on a Saturday morning it to be a ghost town, but it doesn't take a lot for that to unfortunately change. So set off at 6:30 AM, dark, cold, wet, no heated seats, no interior, rattly gear stick all the way there. Thank God I did not remove the heater matrix. I was tempted to, but man, that would have been a horrible cold journey. But do you know what? It took me about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes just cruising down the motorway. Wasn't breaking any speed limits. And like I say, got there in good time. And obviously met Andy and Andrew, his dad, to start work on the little Banshee. So with the car in the workshop, and when I say workshop, I mean pristine workshop, as probably you guys can see, Andy has had it all redone in there, and it looks absolutely beautiful. For those that know my ACD is, it was good to see. And like I say, we got the car in, because obviously it being on a hub dyno, the car's jacked up, the wheels are removed, and then obviously the hub dyno is bolted in place. So it was finally time for the base run. So the last time the car was dynoed was at Surrey Rolling Road, and again a flywheel figure as we are here in the UK, and it was 100, and it was 181 or 182 bhp. So respectable figure for a base map, 133,000 mile old engine. Stood back, watched Andy do the first power run, 170 horsepower on the screen. I'm like, not again, like I've been plagued with some bad dyno time. He said, no, that's the hub figure. I was like, oh, thank God. So I said, what did it make at the flywheel? Again, I have to keep saying it like that. And it did 186 bhp for its best run of about 3 or 4 pulls in the end. So good figure. I mean, I said to Andy, you know, obviously about 5 brake difference from Surrey Rolling Road, and he said, yeah, 5 horsepower difference. I was like, do you know what, pretty consistent. But he said, do bear in mind, different weather, different day, you've got tyres on yours, whereas we're doing it on the hub. So we're pretty close base figure wise, and I thought, you know, 186 brake, pretty happy with that. Andy had a quick look over the log, said fueling's a bit of a mess, we can certainly clean up some power there, and he's going to have a play with the VVT because of the timing bar that I have set in the car. And he said, you know what, we should easily exceed 190 horsepower today. So I was like, that's what I came here for, that's what I wanted the build to be. So then it was just a case of waiting for him to work his magic. So once the car had obviously stopped, Andy was kind enough to run me through the whole process, what he'd seen, where we can pick up areas of powers and problem. Now, there was something with the car that I hadn't really noticed massively. It wasn't something that made it a problem every time I drive, but if you were, say, cruising at 50 mile an hour, fifth gear on the motorway, and you went to put your foot down, you'd get a bit of a buck, little bit of hesitation. I thought, probably mapping, not really sure, but I never drive the car at that RPM realistically. It's not something I was too concerned about. And when he showed the AFR graph, which is the air fuel ratio, it just goes incredibly lean at 2000 RPM, which it shouldn't be doing. So he said, don't worry, we can fix that, and that should get rid of the hiccup, which driving it today, I'm pleased to confirm that has all gone. So for that in itself, just for the drivability, so many people get caught up on, I want big power, I want the numbers, but it's so easy to forget that the graph below that is also so important for getting you to that point. So really pleased that obviously the drivability's picked up on the car, made a massive difference in that. And then he went on to explain things obviously like the VVT switch points. It wasn't something I was aware of, that they run a completely different map when it goes from the VVT switch points. This is even more complicated on the 197-200, but thankfully the 172 is pretty straightforward in comparison. And Andy did the timing changes, obviously all through the solenoid that's on these that switches the VVT on and off. And again, just continued to pick up power. Obviously that changed the fueling again, so he had to go back, make revisions to the fueling, and just watching the amount of attempts he made just to get it absolutely perfect. And like I say, I'll overlay the graph now from the dyno. The white line in the middle I'm pointing to is where you want the fuel to be. You'll never get it 100% there, but you want it following that line. But you can see from the initial power run that the first pull, it goes really lean at the beginning, and then obviously goes really rich at the end. So pleased to say now, like I say, the revision he's done on the final one is near on perfect on that graph. It looks absolutely splendid, and it does feel better for it, like really makes a big difference. The one thing he did say was, because of the timing bar, because of the RS2, and because I'm running the 172 exhaust manifold, I had a little dip down the bottom. He did his best to iron it out, and do you know what? I know it's the truth, because when we first released the RS2, the 182's always made the smoother torque graph. So he said ideally you do want to go down the route of getting a 182 manifold if you wanted to fix that area up. But like I say, for me, because it's a weekend car, and to be honest, it's not something I notice on the road below 2,500 RPM, it's not a major concern in terms of modification, but I will touch on that on the end of the video. One thing Andy did say, and this is probably a good thing that I've pointed out for those in the same build with the RS2, if you're going to go with a Group N timing bar, the injectors at 7,001 RPM are at 90% duty cycle. So what that means is they're pretty much maxed out, and he said you don't really want to be pushing injectors that hard. He said if it was being on track all the time, he would strongly advise doing the injectors ASAP. If it's just a bit of road use, you know, you reach that RPM every now and then, shouldn't be an issue. But he said, complete honesty, if it was him, he would change to the 197 injectors. It just allows for that safer running. And Joe, I said to Andy, once upon a time you could pick a stock internal engine up, which is what this is inside, for £200-300. So if it went bang, not that it'd be a nice thing, but you'd be like, yeah, I'll just swap it out. The problem is now they're getting to the point where they are £300-500, but they're 120,000+ miles on them. So they're obviously not as good as they were when I was in the scene 7 or 8 years ago. So again, something I'll discuss at the end of the video will be the future plans to upgrade the injectors. And back to Andy again to make sure everything is tailored. So the bit you've all been waiting for, what did the little 172 Cup finish with? Well, like I say, it came in at 186 horsepower at the flywheel. After Andy had worked his magic with the VVT, with the ignition timing, with the fueling, we left with 194.7 bhp. So certainly a jump up from the claimed 169 horsepower, 172 being PS, which is what a lot of the Europeans use. So a big jump up over factory power. Hell of a lot of mileage on the engine, so it's good to see that the F4R is still delivering consistently. And 153, I think it was 153.8 foot-pounds of torque at peak. And yeah, man, really happy. And like I say, I'll overlay the graph now, the big improvements being in the lower RPM and obviously a massive gain at the top. And now, for those of you who have watched the video, this thing screams to the red line. Even more so now, and the thing is today it's wet. Like, I've got 8008R tyres on, which if you don't know, they're a sort of dry track tyre really, they're road legal. I've got an open diff, it's 5 degrees out, it's like damp, raining, roads are pretty slimy from the leaves, and it literally just wants to keep spinning the wheels. So I'm going to need to do some more upgrades on that front. But when it does put the power down, man, like, it really does take off, and I'm so chuffed. And like I say, that's not just me and the bum dyno, you can see that on the rolling road graph, because the power goes up, gets to about 6.5, levels off, whereas now it just keeps going all the way to the red line. It feels like you could set an 8,000 RPM red line, but obviously the engine won't hack that, so we are capped at 7,600. So man, finally all tied together. And I think for you guys that work on the wheels or the hubs, I'll try and remember now because I haven't got the graph on me, I think it was 178.5 at the hubs it did in the MBHP. So like I say, make your own equations to work it out, but I think it's clear to say it's well over the 190 bhp flywheel figure. So to finish the video, if you need any Mark II, Mark III, even Mark IV, Clio, Megane, engine work, Engine Dynamics are the guys to see. And I know I've banged on about it in this video, but it's so refreshing to visit somewhere that's truly passionate about what they do, happy to spend the time doing the work and happy to talk about it. It's not a case of bring your car in, map it, take your money, go away. And I spoke to Matt yesterday because he wants to get the 200 done, and I said to him, without a doubt now, like, even though he's only got really relatively minor breathing mods, the things that Andy was telling me about, the problems you can spot with the 197-200 that can often go unknown, and then obviously try and map on top of that. And obviously with the dyno you get the full peace of mind of what the car drove in with, what the car left with. And that, like I say, especially with how it drives now, just the little things like getting rid of the hiccup I had at 2,000 RPM, well worth doing. So what's next on the 172 Cup Series? Obviously I thank a lot of you guys for subscribing. Obviously I hope you're enjoying the content we're bringing to you with the little hot hatch. I mean, next year, Jesus Christ, I've got to get it on track. And this has gone on for well too long now. Building a track car not to use on track is just getting a bit stupid. So I think the one I want to take it on, if obviously the COVID passes away, as I believe there's one at Blighton Park, a Renault Sport Day, so it'd be cool to meet some of you guys. Obviously if we do get the car down there, feel free to come over, ask any questions, have a laugh, have a look around, whatever it is that we're allowed to do in 2021. But that's the plan for sort of June time, get it on track, try and make a weekend of it, like I say, at this Clio Sport event that goes on, if it's back on, if it even still is on. And yeah, that's where I want to go event wise. Obviously we'll do some more Sunday drives because it is good fun in small doses. Like the Rattly gear shifter isn't the best for long commutes. And modifications, well, after hearing Andrew's one down there, I'll put a clip over now. Obviously it wasn't a standard car, it has got the aftermarket inlet on it, not a RS2, but it's, man, with that light and flywheel, obviously there's more than just that, there's a few engine tweaks in there. The way that picked up, I was like, so if I drop the subframe, that means I could put a limited slip diff in it, 182 manifold, and a light and flywheel. So that's pretty tempting. Like that would be pretty cool to really just finish it off. But to be honest with you, the mileage I do, the way it drives, I'm really happy with the finished package. I mean, sadly I can't really exploit it today. I will try and put a clip in now when I leave this muddy car park and go for a drive and give you an idea of how difficult, interesting it is to actually try and utilise the power. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you give the channel a like and a subscribe. So we've still got plenty more to come with the Cup, especially for 2021. But as you can see from the video and the power numbers, 194 horsepower calculated at the flywheel. So really happy. The little 133,000 mile Cup has delivered and Andy has worked his magic.